something is happening with the IRS that I believe not enough taxpayers are paying attention to. And that is the use of automation and use of artificial intelligence. So what that means for you as a taxpayer is that although the IRS is reducing its staff and its headcount, it turns out that they're kind of going by that old saying of work smarter, not harder. So what they figured was they're going to reduce, if you recall back when the previous administration was talking about adding 70,000 new agents, 80,000 new agents, increasing the headcount. Now with this new administration, what is happening is they're actually automating and using technology to replace what was going to be that increase in headcount. So, what does that mean? So basically, in summary, the way to summarize it is to say they're becoming smaller, but they're becoming smarter. Okay, so what are they using? They're using AI, they're using automation, they're basically improving how things are done and how they're responding to certain things and how they're able to check and get ahead of certain issues that, whereas before it used to take much longer to process because there was more of a manual process, right? So now all of that is being automated. So the timing that it would take to find certain things or certain issues is obviously that window is closing. Okay, so especially this is especially true if you're kind of like in that realm of maybe more complex type of filing where maybe you're dealing with cryptocurrency, where you have businesses, you have maybe some complex structures between your businesses and stuff like that. That becomes even more kind of a thing that you should be on the lookout for. Right, so this is not a video intended to scare you, but it is for you to have the knowledge and for you to kind of have the education and be aware of this so that you can adjust maybe some of the things that you weren't doing before that now you should be doing, right? So this is about changing how the IRS identifies errors, right? So in how it communicates with taxpayers and how it enforces that compliance, right? So it's basically a three-way. So all of that, where it used to be more of a manual process, more like you had to deal with live agents, where it would take kind of like certain processes where it was just more of human involvement. All of that is being automated and it's being reduced to a minimum amount. Right, so we're all most people are versed or they're more familiar with how AI works, and as we know, something that used to take a very long time, where it used to be done manually, you can just kind of run certain things with AI. Although it's not perfect, let me get it straight, it's not. By no means do I say that it's perfect, but it clearly does reduce some of that kind of like initial labor or low-hanging fruit, where it used to take maybe more longer to just kind of read through a bunch of pages. Now you can get summaries from AI, you can do certain things, you can kind of spot trends that used to take longer. Now all that can be done in a much shorter time frame. Okay, so what I want to do today is I want to explain how this affects you as a business, as a person, as an individual, as a business taxpayer, owner of operating, if you're operating a business, if you own a business, and how you should start paying attention to this. Okay, so I'm going to begin by talking about the IRS of yesterday. Okay, I just kind of want to bringing in some context and, kind of bring you up to date from the past and how things have developed into today, right? So, what happened? What was the IRS of yesterday, right? So, if you had to deal with the IRS in any term or form, you would know that, that would require long phone calls, right? So, that was number one. You probably, if you were expecting to maybe solve something by calling the IRS, and if your expectation was that you would be maybe waiting a few 10, 15 minutes and you would speak with someone that had high knowledge and can help you and be very friendly and just kind of help you figure out, navigate what the problem was, you would be very disappointed in the IRS of yesterday. So what really happened, the reality was there was really long wait times. If you didn't call, and some of that is still true today, but some of these things are improving. But you know, it was you knew for a fact that if you didn't call early in the morning or maybe later towards the end of the day, chances are you were not gonna get much help. Okay, so you know, manual reviews, you know, so they didn't, obviously without the usage of AI. So it was basically what I was describing earlier. All that took manual work, right? Where now you'll be able to use AI to spot certain things in a much shorter time. It required more of a manual review process, which obviously takes longer. Paper files. So, you know, whereas now we're seeing it with pretty much every aspect of dealing with the IRS nowadays has some electronic component. They even mentioned that a couple of years ago that they were going to start rolling out any paper check would be discarded. So now what they were expecting is to have everything electronically paid. So what that means is they were obviously clearly getting away from any paper filing, from having to physically go to the bank and cash any checks, and going to the more electronic, readily available option, which is, you know, clearly being used by you know, most businesses. And you know, now there's Zelle, there's wire transfers, you know, there's still obviously some aspect of manual printed checks, but it's becoming less of a thing. So you know, slower enforcement was another one. So you know, you would expect a longer turnaround. Okay, so you know, and this is obviously clearly due to all these manual processes that we're discussing. It just took longer. So if it takes longer, then it's just of a slower, and things backlog even more, right? So if you don't have a certain speed to start getting rid of processing and just kind of getting through the pipeline, then things are gonna back up further and further and further. That's really how it works, and how things happen with the IRS, right? Which led to bottlenecks. Okay, so you know, you would sometimes get announcements or news from the IRS say, you know, they're behind on certain things. You know, they're adding more headcounts because they have all these issues, and you know, they're looking to speed things up, right? It's because of those bottlenecks. So you know, if I had to summarize what the IRS of yesterday was, it's just slow. It was manual. It was you know, bottom line, inefficient. So now that leads us into the IRS of tomorrow. So what are we expecting from the IRS tomorrow? Okay, so it's AI. It's number one. Okay, and it's basically with AI, you get reviewing patterns, you get spotting trends, you get red flags that are becoming more automated, whereas you used to take a human eye to spot certain things to check manually. Now AI can do this at a much high frequency and a speedy, more of a speedy process. Data matching. Okay, so you know, if you know, now that you're able to utilize these AI machines to kind of spot these trends, now the data matching becomes more of a thing that is readily usable and available to them. So they're clearly gonna go through processes where things are being matched automatically. You know, digital communication. So it's, you know, they're no longer needing to write letters or, you know, having to kind of mail out things like the old-fashioned way. Now they're able to kind of speed things up digitally. You know, the analysis of these documents. It just now, you know, there's the AI component where it's becoming smarter, where it's able to not just give you a summary. It's able to actually even create response. It's able to create agents that can take care of certain tasks and be automatic out of the way. Predictive analysis. So now it's able to, you kind of set your trends. How you been filing year to year, and it's able to spot things quickly. Improved, and then obviously with that, there's an improved service, right? So as I mentioned, where it used to be very frustrating to deal with, through the IRS in certain aspects, because if things change hands, you have to go back and re-explain everything, and you just kind of were at the sake of the person that you are now speaking to go back and just check what was done previously and really catch up to what's going on now, and that could be a very frustrating process. So now, there's, with this component, now you're kind of, not that it's guaranteed that you're not going to go through that, because it's, it could happen, but there should be less of that. Now, with all of this, there should be you will see an improvement on the service, right? So, the IRS, they indicate that AI is being used across all taxpayer services, okay? They're looking for operational efficiency. They're looking for compliance functions. They're using voice bots, chat bots, and they're using summarization tools, and all of this is expanding, and it's expanding rapidly. Okay, so why? So you might ask yourself, okay, so we know AI is here. I hear all the time, and I hear all these. People in the internet and social media are talking about AI. So what does that mean? Okay, so basically what that means is that the days of relying on paperwork, mistakes, or hoping that something isn't noticed are becoming very, very less realistic. So in other words, if somehow you're working under the mentality or the process where you can kind of take shortcuts, or you can ignore kind of big red flags, and maybe think that there's less chance that just there's so many taxpayers, they're probably just gonna kind of fly under the radar. That type of thinking and that mentality should basically just be removed. It should never be an option. Clearly, obviously, it's because if the other side is for us as the regular folks, and with our business, with our personal stuff, if we're using AI to help us, the other side, the enforcement side, like the IRS, is also using their tools to be more efficient at their job. So what that means is, whereas things could just maybe had a bigger chance to fly under the radar, that really it's a bigger concern, right? So the realistic expectations for the IRS to get back and analyze these things is that you could not expect to be as slow, as inefficient as it used to be. They're becoming way, way smarter, efficient, and better at enforcing the tax laws and the regulations and everything. So it's just this for you to keep in the back of your mind. Okay, so specifically, what does that mean? So, whereas, so something like, for example, matching 1099s, right? Kind of a manual process before. Now you submit things online, it can quickly assess and match 1099s issuance with your tax filing. Just to give you an example, right? It's payroll done correctly. It's, in our office, we see letters from the IRS regarding payroll that have exponentially increased. So whereas, especially when for people in the industry that are doing these processes manual, it's becoming more and more evident, and it's just becoming more of an issue. Because like the IRS is able to spot these things now, and unless you do it electronically, where you're matching things quite easily and just more of an efficient way, whereas done manually through letters to actual checks, it's becoming an issue where people are getting letters right and left because of issues with unapplied cash, stuff being applied to the wrong years. All that because of a manual process that no longer exists. Okay, so another one is partnerships. Our partnerships now, it's all kind of an ecosystem, right? You used to file whether it's like a pass through. Now there's some matching there with your personal. All that being automated, right? Your basis, kind of like something that people didn't really pay much attention to, which is the tax basis of each taxpayer, especially as part of a pass-through entity. All of that is being checked, okay? And shareholders distributions, for example, all that becomes part of the basis, and all that needs to be it's all being matched in a much faster and efficient way. So that kind of leads me into what, by going into what that means, is what are the biggest misconceptions? Like what am I missing here? And what I'd like to summarize to you is, this is basically, if I can shorten into a couple words, it's just faster compliance. It's just like in a generalized way, how you would view this is you get faster compliance, you get better matching, you get quick notices, you get less human discretion and on straightforward issues. You get more consistency, okay? You get more automation, and all of that, when you put all that together, what that means to you is you need to also sharpen up how you manage your affairs with the IRS. Okay, so basically we're not talking about here reinventing the wheel or getting scared and just spending way more money than you need on things for the IRS. What that means is you also need to be more organized. You need to make sure that whereas before you used to not pay attention to certain things that used to go to the IRS, or maybe you used to hire someone that maybe didn't have a lot of experience with IRS forms. Now this is becoming a thing where it would be advisable for you to either spend more time than you did before dealing with these things, or you hire the right people to do it. Okay, this is like everything, with every type of technological advancements that have happened in our history. What we do as taxpayers, or as the citizens, or whatever the new component is, we just basically have to adjust, right? We need to become, if this thing is happening that way, we need to become smarter how we deal with it, and basically that's basically what we need to do. Okay, so what is the good news? So just kind of throwing it all out there, just kind of giving you all these things where kind of like in the sort of a bad news type of thing, where it's like, okay, so the IRS is smart. So now how does that help me? So basically the good news is, and I believe this is really good news actually, from sitting from here as a CPA that have helped thousands and thousands of taxpayers, that have worked with the IRS on cases with high debt, a lot of unfiled returns, or misapplied forms done incorrectly. I believe this is really good news, because if you're keeping good records and you're working proactively and you're filing correctly, this technology should make your experience better. So what that means is, if for whatever reason you had an issue with the IRS, even if it's something that wasn't wrong on your part, if it was just something maybe they were asked, just inquiring about, what that means is if you do things right, all of this experience and the ultimate goal, which is to get rid of the problem, or which is to sort out the issue, is gonna be faster, it's gonna be better, more efficient, less time consuming. It's basically gonna reduce the amount of headaches and time spent on the issue, right? So at the end of the day, our time is money, right? And if we have to spend quite a lot of time dealing with IRS, answering questions, having to hire, a CPA, or having to hire an attorney because you run into this problem, all of that is money, right? So all of that it's basically resources that are taken from you, right? So if there's some good news that comes out of this, is that this may reduce the need to have to go to that route, right? So that doesn't mean that you may not be in a spot where you may need a CPA or an attorney, because in a lot of cases that's actually going to save you money, but the whole experience is better, right? So the timing that it would take to do these things, as I mentioned, manually sending letters back and forth, waiting a long time, all of that is going to be reduced. That's basically the good news on this is the IRS, I would say, was very antiquated, was very inefficient. It doesn't mean that they're perfect, or that they that it's the model for a government agency to how they operate, but they're improving. And my expectation is that they're looking to get even better at this. Okay, so. What should I do as a business owner, as a taxpayer, as a high income individual? What am I looking at? Okay, so there's kind of summarize this in 5 different ideas, right? Just kind of 5 different concepts summarized. Okay, so first is don't wait. Okay, so if you get a letter, respond it. They'll be able to. The faster you respond, the faster that the process kind of moves along, and the better the faster the resolution will be. Okay, maintain books. Okay, so the days where you would kind of you'd be kind of in a safe place to. Operate under the kind of the traditional way, which is you just kind of work kind of you had the expectation that you have a company, but you commingle funds and you don't have things separated, you're not organized, so all of that it's being caught way faster, way easier. So maintaining books, it's one area where I think you will see a difference if you're able to maintain your books. And that would mean hiring a bookkeeper, hiring a tax preparer, someone that can handle that process. I think we're ultimately gonna see a lot more of. With this new technology, but in the past, traditionally you could get away with just kind of doing very low key, just doing minimum maintenance. But I think it's becoming clear that that's one area where it's gonna get businesses will prioritize now more and just be more on top of maintaining books the proper way. Okay, so responding quickly. Right, so what that entails is just be around, just hire the right assistants, and just associate with yourself with having the right type of consultations. Right, so what that means is you may not be in a position where you have to be on a retainer with a CPA, but it wouldn't help for you to at least try to do throughout the year some kind of catch up and just kind of go over your books, how things are going. That would come a long way for you as a business owner to prepare for this. Okay. Another one, that this is one of the biggest one, is plan before filing. Okay, so before with sort of a manual process, filing, it was almost an afterthought. You would think you would file and just worry about that later. So since they're able to catch these issues way earlier than they used to, now planning before filing is obviously evidently way more becoming more and more important in this new age. Right, because the last thing you want to do is just do something quickly without planning that is actually going to be caught faster and earlier, and it's just going to basically open up a can of worms that you don't want. Okay, use technology yourself. So basically, use your technology to your advantage. Okay, so obviously, clearly, if the IRS is using AI, all of this to kind of use for enforcement purposes. You should also just, what I've been saying throughout the entire video is you just gotta become smarter. You gotta utilize your tool, call your CPA, use AI, plan these things, think it through, you use a consultation. I would not recommend for you to rely on AI to do, especially if it's a complex issue. Because there are things that maybe the AI itself will tell you, look, consult with a CPA before providing this answer, or before the recommendation that they give you. Okay. As a summary, so just to put it simply, is if the IRS is becoming more sophisticated, you should be doing that too. Okay. So just to kind of finalize, my thoughts here, and kind of like what I'm trying to educate you here on is, I don't believe AI changes the importance of having a CPA. Okay, so I think it changes the importance of having the right CPA, because everybody's case is different. You could be in a position where things are simple for you, and it does not require that kind of level of complexity that other folks might need. For example, if you're starting a business, if you're scaling a business, if you have complex structure, if you have a high earning W-2, these are now your position is becoming more complex. So as basically what's happening is, it would just require for you to check and talk with the right people. Whereas before, maybe a tax preparer can do certain things and maybe flow under the radar. Now, I think with the new technology investments, with how the economy it's basically kind of transforming as well. There's going to be a kind of like how similar to how the IRS is matching certain things. It will require you as a taxpayer to also get matched with the right assistance. Not all CPAs have the same curriculum. Not all CPAs are experts in the same areas. So I would recommend for you to just kind of do some research and try to get the right help that works for you. Okay, because AI obviously can now identify patterns. It can, but it's good at these things. But what it may fail to do in a way is it cannot understand context, right? That's maybe not an area that AI can be really good at, right? It can understand your goals, okay? It can help you make decisions before they happen, right? They don't have that predictive kind of assistance. That's still where experienced advisors can be of value. So there's a lot to be said about kind of hiring the right person, and that they can stay with you throughout your experience and your process as a business owner or as a high net worth individual, because history matters and context can be sometimes the difference, night and day. I've seen it multiple times. It happens even to me when new clients come to my office and they've kind of been dealing with a let's say another CPA for a long time. There's some transition right? There's some kind of passing the knowledge to the new CPA. So even though you're, you might be reaching out to someone that has more experience and is able to help you better, even then there's still kind of some transition period, because the old CPA, even though it's not maybe able to kind of provide that high assistance, that type of high level of knowledge and assistance that they can provide, even when they can do that, not having the history or not having the context is a challenge that need to kind of be transitioned from the old CPA. Okay, so that's what we like to do here at UpFront CPA. We offer free consultations for discovery, I should say. If you're looking to kind of maybe get some ideas about how you can make improvements to your business. If you feel like you're overpaying taxes, we offer free consultation. We can talk about how AI, you can how that if this concept kind of resonates with you, we're happy to just kind of walk you through what we're seeing here at UpFront CPA, and how you can maybe prepare yourself for how to deal with IRS if it comes to that. So I'd like to thank you for sticking with me throughout this time. If you like this video, please hit the like button and follow us for more content.